If you have a budget of 5.5 to 7 lakh rupees, the Punch is a sensible value for money buy. But here's where things get really interesting. As you move up the ladder and go for the mid or higher variants, you'll realize that their pricing overlaps with those of the Tata Nexon. Yes, the Nexon starting price is just 7.32 lakh, and for the money, you're getting a bigger car with a punchier turbo-petrol engine. And now, Tata has also introduced a turbo-petrol version of the Punch at a premium of 70 to 80,000 over a NA naturally aspirated petrol version. So that brings up a very important question. Why not get the Tata Nexon instead? So to answer that and understand where each of these two cars stand, we've brought them two together. The facelift gives the Punch a fresher, more modern look. The front now gets vertically stacked LED headlamps placed below the DRLs. The DRLs sit on either sides within a gloss black panel, and the bumper has been redesigned to give it a more rugged look. The 16-inch dual-tone alloys are new. At the rear, new LED tail lamps joined by a light bar and a revised bumper with silver skid plate give it a wider and more SUV-like appearance. Even though the Nexon has been around and it is a familiar sight on our roads, its sharp styling with its coupe-like roofline and harmonious curves lends it a modern look. It is longer, wider and taller than the Punch. Its wheelbase is longer, tires are chunkier, and its 208mm ground clearance is more generous too. And while these two cars are parked beside each other, let's look at their usable boot space too. The Tata Punch has a 366-litre boot, whereas the Tata Nexon has a 382-litre boot. How does that fare in the real world? We've got some luggage to demonstrate. Even though the Nexon has a 17-litre boot advantage on paper, in the real world, even the Punch accommodates an equal amount of luggage. Moving on, the Punch shares its 1.2-litre 3-cylinder turbo-petrol engine with the Nexon, so it makes an identical 120 horsepower and 170 Nm of torque. Now the Tata Nexon gives you a wide spread of transmission options. You have a 5-speed manual, a 6-speed manual, 6-speed AMT, as well as a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic. With the Punch, you get only a 6-speed manual transmission. Time to find out how the Punch Turbo feels like to drive. A powerful engine in a small car is always a good idea. As I mentioned earlier, this engine makes 120 horsepower and 170 Nm of torque. That coupled with the Punch's near 1050 kg curb weight, those make for exciting power and torque to weight ratios. The Punch certainly feels energetic in the way it delivers its performance. Although unlike the Nexon, this one doesn't get drive modes. What works in the Punch's favor is that this car feels a lot more agile and a lot more nimble compared to the Nexon. I must mention that the Punch's smaller dimensions make it a lot more manageable and a lot easier within urban confines. Another point of difference between the two cars is that the 6-speed manual gearbox in the Tata Punch has a shorter shifter height. And as a result, this one feels a bit more positive and a bit sportier than the Nexon's unit. And despite its smaller footprint, high-speed stability is very impressive. The Punch takes bad roads like a champ. One thing that's really annoying is that despite all its modernity and the modern features, Tata hasn't equipped the Punch with load cell sensors in the rear seats. And as a result, at the start of every journey, whether or not someone is seated at the back, the seatbelt reminders will keep buzzing. The most noticeable update inside is the new 2-spoke gloss black steering wheel with an illuminated Tata logo, bringing the Punch in line with Tata's newer models and giving the cabin a more premium feel. The climate control panel has also been redesigned, replacing physical buttons with a touch-based unit similar to the Nexon and Sierra. It looks modern but isn't very easy to use while driving. The seats retain fabric upholstery, but comfort has improved thanks to better cushioning and extended thigh support for both front and rear seats. Rear seat space is reasonable for the car's size, although 3 adults will be a squeeze. The excellent 360-degree camera as well as the tiny dimensions of this car make parking it in tight spots a breeze. On the topic of price and features, the Punch Turbo is available in 2 variants, Adventure and Accomplished Plus, while the Nexon with the turbo engine ranges between 7.32 lakh and 12.17 lakh. For this test, we are comparing the top spec Punch Accomplished Plus variant to the Nexon Creator Plus S variant, both of which are similarly equipped, and the price difference between them is Rs 55,000, with the Nexon being more expensive. While both cars get a 360-degree camera, alloy wheels, sunroof, touchscreen, etc., smaller features that the Punch gets over the Nexon are a larger 7-inch instrument cluster versus the Nexon's smaller 4-inch unit. It has 4 tweeters, connected car tech, an auto-dimming inside mirror, a parcel tray, tire pressure loss indicator, and wireless charging, among others. Of course, you can get all these and even kit like panoramic sunroof and ventilated seats by opting for the higher variants of the Nexon. But then those are significantly more expensive too. With that, let's shift focus to the Nexon. Getting into the Tata Nexon is not as easy as getting into the Tata Punch, and there are 2 reasons for that. One, the doors don't open 90 degrees like in the Tata Punch, and the second reason is that the door sill is a bit on the higher side in the Nexon as compared to the Tata Punch. With the Nexon, you get a dark colored cabin, and as a result, it drops away that sense of space to some extent. However, there's no getting away from the fact that this is the wider car and it feels like the broader cabin when you are behind the wheel of the Tata Nexon. Compared to the Tata Punch, the Nexon has limited storage areas. There's no place to store your phone like in the Punch, and even the cup holders are a size too small. The front seats are a bit more accommodating in terms of their width compared to a Tata Punch. However, the thigh support in the Punch is a bit better. Space in the rear seat of the Nexon is plenty. There's plenty of knee room, plenty of foot room, even headroom is really good. And because the cabin is broader, seating 3 adults abreast at the back is relatively easier. A few features that are missing in this Creative Plus variant of the Nexon are rear armrest and charging provisions, both of which are available in the top spec Tata Punch. As mentioned earlier, both these share their turbo-petrol engine, but do they feel too different from behind the wheel? Almost immediately, the Nexon feels like the bigger car from behind the wheel. You can feel the breadth, you can feel that you're seated higher up, and you can feel like this is a car from a segment above the Punch. Yes, it shares its engine with the Punch, and yes, it is bigger and heavier than the Punch. But if I'm being honest, you cannot feel the power or the torque deficit, and the Nexon also gets a sport mode which enhances its throttle responses. These make it feel a lot livelier and a lot lighter on its feet. The Nexon 6-speed manual doesn't feel as positive or as sure-slotting as the one in the Punch. This one requires a bit more effort to slot into gates. We timed the 2 cars back to back, and in our acceleration test, the Nexon was barely half a second slower than the Punch Turbo from 0 to 100 km per hour. But in a rolling race from 20 to 80 km per hour in 3rd gear, the Punch is significantly quicker. Another small yet significant point of difference is that the Nexon's fuel tank is slightly larger than the Punch's, which means a slightly healthier tank range. The Nexon is equipped with wider tires, and these have a higher side profile as well. And as a result, bump absorption is even better than in the Punch. And if you thought that the Punch feels tough, the Nexon takes it to a whole different level. You can just sail over bad roads, and this car will just glide over it completely unfazed. But yes, if I'm being completely honest, the Nexon doesn't feel as chuckable or as agile as the Tata Punch. It is a bigger car, and you can feel it from behind the wheel. After spending a day with both these 2 Tata compact SUVs, it's time to conclude this comparison test. Let's start with the Punch's biggest strength, its compact size. It is tinier than the Nexon in every dimension, which makes it a lot more manageable in everyday scenarios. It is easier to drive in congested areas and easier to park, and overall it is a lot more manageable. And for some buyers, that is a huge deal maker. But for an additional 55 to 60,000 rupees, you can get a Tata Nexon. And yes, it costs a bit more, but then you're getting a lot more for your money. You're getting more cabin space, higher ground clearance, and better road presence thanks to its larger size. Moreover, the Nexon comes across as a well-rounded and a versatile package. It is the better car for the family, it is the better car for long drives, and it is the car that feels tougher of the 2. So now we throw the question to you. Which of these two Tata compact SUVs would you pick? Let us know in the comments below.